Since before recorded history, the people of Britain have had first-hand experience of the strange and unusual. Spirits who haunt ancient castles, stories of werewolves and banshees roaming the countryside, and fantastic creatures like gnomes, fairies and pixies, all are firmly embedded in our native folklore. This cultural experience makes us uniquely qualified to research these types of phenomena and help us find the truth of the reality that surrounds us. So sit back and relax as your hosts, Irene Allen Block and Mark Johnson, take you on a journey through this strange realm and together help us find the answers to the mysteries that lie just beyond our grasp. Welcome to Paranormal UK Radio.
Hello everyone, I'm Irene Allen Block, the host of the Paranormal UK Radio Show, the flagship show on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And with me tonight, as usual, is my lovely co-host, Mark Johnson.
I was waiting to see if you were going to remember.
I had to think there. I really had to think.
And please explain to the audience how I'm lovely. I
don't know. It's just something you say, isn't it? You know, my lovely co-host.
How about phenomenal or
okay,
majestic or, you know.
Or the pits, yeah.
Yeah, or the pits. Pits works.
Yeah.
So how are you?
I'm all right. What have you been up to?
Working. Got a call from an old client of mine I need to reach out to later to talk about. He's still having issues on a case, so we did several years ago. So, you know, I haven't been doing much of people who, I don't know if anybody follows me anymore. I'm like pretty much a nobody these days in the
I know you are.
Paranormal community. Thank you for that round of support. Taking a big step back.
Everybody, for God's sake, do us a favor. Will you follow Mark on Facebook, because he's getting really, really worried now because he's only getting one person a week, if he's lucky.
No, I doesn't really bother me. I've been kind of on a sabbatical, taking some time out.
I tell you what it is, Mark. Is you've got so many followers, there's no room for any more.
Oh, yeah. Sure, I've hit that 5,000 Facebook limit. Sure. Only miss it by about, 4,500, but, still.
Oh, yes, I've got to admit you haven't got as many as me, but never mind.
Well, you are just so popular.
I am, aren't I? Anyway, guess what I've got? I've got 2 new sofas.
Oh, they finally came.
They came, yeah. And one's a bed settee, so it's going to be handy if we get any extra guests and we need to put them up. Instead of sticking them on top of the washing machine or somewhere like that, I can put them in a bed settee.
Well, there you can. And will you put them in the room where the ghosts will make their presence known?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Well, my ghosts make their presence known in every room, don't they? Even the toilet. So, you can't get away from them in this house. But, yes, I got 2 new bed settees and 2 new sofas, should I say, 1 bed settee. Mm-hmm. And I am absolutely thrilled with them. The dogs are all over them already.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to let the dogs up on them?
Yeah, well, I'd put throws on them. They are used to getting on the sofas in this particular room, so it's going to be very hard to stop them. They don't know they're new, do they?
Well, they have that new sofa smell.
They don't now. They have a doggy smell.
Yeah, well. That didn't take long, did it?
No. Half an hour. Anyway, so what else has been going on? Anything? Anything exciting in the world of the paranormal?
Paranormal. Well, it's kind of quiet in the world of paranormal, except we mentioned like what was happening in some of the ghost shows. And, I even got contacted by some producers for, their casting for these ghost shows. And I didn't even bother responding.
Well, we don't, do we?
No.
We don't bother anymore. Because you get fed up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. As I was telling somebody the other day, the only way I'd do it is if you and we produced our own show. We had 100% creative control, not have some pinhood producer.
And there's no way we're going to have creative control. You know that.
Oh, not unless we do our own show and put it on our own network. So,
well, that's an idea.
That'll be it. The Paranormal UK television network. That'll be our next big thing. Oh,
now you've said that, some other bugger will go out there and do it.
Yeah, but
you better get that done by tomorrow now, and I'm going to have to get that copy written and bloomin' registered and God knows what else.
Well, before this show airs on Wednesday night at 10 p.m., by the way, I think I'll have to go out and register that domain. Yeah, just to secure it in case. It may never happen, but you never know.
Yeah, well, Willow Wind Pictures did.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Well, I think we're ready to get on with our show. What do you say?
Yeah, who's the guest?
Tonight we're joined by a very interesting guest. Her name is Wendy Binks, but some people who over here, especially over here in the States, if you've watched Ghost Adventures the last couple of years, may have seen her on a couple of the Ghost Adventure shows under her name Lady Snake. So we want to welcome Wendy to the program. How are you tonight, Wendy?
I'm fine, thank you. Greetings to everybody.
Hello, Wendy.
Well, thanks.
Hello, Irene. How are you?
I'm fine. Now I've had that little rant with Mark. I'm absolutely brilliant. Got it all out my system.
On your sofas?
Yeah, my sofas. Oh, dear me.
Well, it's like we warned Wendy, Lady Snake, before the show, and we'll say it again here. If people start hearing strange noises in the background while we're doing the show, it may not necessarily be anything paranormal, although we've had some things happen in past shows. But, you know, with your house renovations, you're in the room where you have Pickles, Pee-wee the Pope Parrot. Mm-hmm. He might squawk next to you. And, of course,
he sounds like a demon.
Yeah. And then the official mascot for the Paranormal UK radio network, Gertie the Paranormal Pup, who snores quite loudly.
Yeah, and I noticed that we are going to have some T-shirts and things with Gertie's face on.
Yes, we are. We've got some new logos created, and we're putting together some merchandise for people, T-shirts and whatnot, and Gertie's face will be plastered there. So
yeah, and Gertie wants the lot. She wants the hat. She wants the T-shirt. She wants the mouse pad. She wants the wall clock. Now, that I definitely need, that wall clock.
What doesn't she want?
She wants everything.
What was that, Wendy?
Is this a dog?
Yeah.
Yes.
What type of dog is she?
She's a British bulldog.
Oh, has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be, doesn't it? A British bulldog. So cute.
Oh, she's lovely. Absolutely lovely. She really is. Anyway, getting back to the show.
Yeah, sorry for that little sidebar there, but
yeah.
So Wendy, tell us. What?
I just asked a question.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Wendy, you're not on the telephone, are you?
No.
Oh, because me and Mark normally talk over each other if somebody's on the telephone. For some reason or other, yeah. Yeah, and I often talk over the actual guest when they're on the phone because there's that delay. So I was wondering, I just wanted to know after Mark spoke over me then that you weren't on the telephone. Anyway, what I actually said was you come from Chester. Yes?
Yeah, not far from Chester, actually. I'm in a little town called Ellesmere Port. Oh, God, it sounds posh, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's a tiny town. Chester's fantastic.
Oh, it's fair. Has it still got all the cobble streets and everything?
Yes, I adore it. I go daily to Chester, which is about 7 miles from where I live. Very, very haunted, very, very. Lots of lovely history there. I'd recommend anybody to travel there just for the atmosphere.
It's very much like York, isn't it? To look at, it's very much like York. You know, it's a Roman city, Mark. Roman.
It certainly is. But you've got Bath. Well, Bath's very similar as well to Chester. And obviously York and Chester have got the same atmosphere, and you can feel I can't explain it to you. When I go, I adore it, you see, and when I go to Chester, I feel as though I walk into a past when I walk in some of them streets.
Yeah, I used to feel that when I used to go down to Canterbury. I used to go to Canterbury sorry about this, Mark, we're chatting.
That's okay, go for it.
I used to go to Canterbury every other weekend, you know, and stay down there sometimes. It was only an hour down the road, but we used to book into a hotel, usually a haunted one, and it was absolutely fantastic. You know, you could feel the past walking in the streets alongside you.
Yes, and I think that's what I love about Chester, and because Bath, Chester, York, you know, these sort of places are very much places I love and I like to visit a lot, as well as Glastonbury, obviously.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. Pendle Hill, I enjoy that. You know, obviously, while I'm up and down the country, let's just say anything that's haunted, you know, Wendy and or Lady Snake's there. But
okay, right. You can carry on now, Mark.
Oh, can I? May I, please?
Yes.
So Wendy, for our listeners, and you know, we try to avoid the usual radio show questions here, but in the beginning, we always have to ask people if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, how you came into being involved with magic and witchcraft, and how you got your name. How did you get Lady Snake?
The name is quite an unusual one because I was actually given it many years ago. Not Lady Snake. I was given Snake Eyes. You know, like the film.
Yes.
With Nicolas Cage in. So I found it funny when I was first given the name because I couldn't understand it and what it all meant and everything else. And I was part of a coven, and I'd like to keep that part private if that's okay. Mm-hmm. But I was in a coven, I worked with people, they gave me the name, you know, Snake Eyes. And then as I was evolving, as they say, within my magical work, someone had said to me, well, you're no lady, are you? You know, because of the way I was acting, the way I was doing stuff. And I just then decided that, no, that's going to be my name now. And I called myself Lady Snake from there on because I'm no lady. I can be quite, you know, arrogant. I can be quite blunt and abrupt with people. But to me, I'm not. I'm just me, and I just kind of like tell people as it is.
Don't worry about it, Wendy. I'm not a lady either.
I was just about to say, Wendy, you sound exactly like Irene.
Definitely. You just, at the end of the day, people have to take you as they find you, and you have to find yourself.
That's right.
You know, if people you're not going to get on with everybody in life. You know, at the end of the day, as long as you're friendly, and as long as you know, obviously with the paranormal, there's that many debates on it, and as long as you keep it friendly and debatable, then that's the way it should be. But on a personal level, you know, I am who I am, and if people don't like that, then there's a door. Go through it. That's the way I am.
You go, girl. You go.
I know I sound awful, but it is me. It's the way I am.
No, that's me as well. No, if they don't like me the way they are, they know where the door is.
And that's how it should be, Irene. It, love.
I can't waste my time on them.
Well, and that's it. The way I see it is there's karma out there. I'm a big believer in it, obviously. God, I don't want to go too deep with everything, but I first started witchcraft. It actually happened by mistake because I was around about 7, to 9 years of age, and I can't remember the exact age, but my mum decided she was going to get me christened. And we went into the church. I love churches, by the way. I think they're beautiful. I've got nothing against them. And I had to hold this candle. And as I was walking towards this priest person in gowns and whatnot, I just looked at the candle and I ran out the church. And I couldn't figure out why I'd done it. Obviously, I'm in a lot of trouble with my mum. But I then decided from there on that wasn't for me. And I worked with, and then of course it is the typical tree hugging stuff, but it isn't. Because obviously I respect all nature, and to be honest with you, things just happen naturally. I can't explain really to you. I just kind of like got into it and then started doing stuff, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing, and then it just carried on from there, and then my magic seems to have just carried on and worked.
Now, with you also, I believe on your bio you mentioned that you are psychic, and when did you know at an age that you knew you were different?
Okay. A lot of people say when you're a child. Now, all children, you've got to remember, everybody's psychic in the world. It's whether you tune into it or not. To be honest with you, I was 5. I can remember this because it's not a positive story, but it's not a bad one either. I was 5 years of age, and my grandfather had died before I was born. And I remember this gentleman sitting me up on the windowsill, talking to me each day. So I'd gone to my mum and I'd said, this gentleman, I described him, and I said his name was Frank, which was my granddad, and has been talking to me, and I got called off my own mother a freak. Don't be so silly, you freak. Blah, blah, blah. It can't happen like that. So obviously it was left. I wondered what was happening because I could see him as clear as, you can see each other today. And I thought, right, okay, and I left it. Then again, I was a teenager, and I started telling a few things to my friends in school, and they was like, how do you know that? And I thought, all right, okay. So then again, I come off. I met my now husband, who I've been with, God, longer than any jail sentence. So I met him, and he bought me a set of tarot cards, because I told him that I was into the witchcraft and everything else. He told me so was he. And only the witchcraft side of it. He didn't believe in the psychic or anything side of it. And he encouraged me, and then I went from there, basically.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question to that, because you just said something I found curious. You're into the witchcraft side of it, but you weren't into the psychic side of it. And I find that kind of interesting, because it almost seems like a contradiction in a way. I mean, they're both working with different types of energies.
It does, because you've got to remember, I'm a human being at the end of the day, and we've got our own egos, and I thought to myself, how can this kind of happen? And obviously, every time I've done something, it's been a negative throughout my childhood, coming up. So I decided that when I was picking up, so I used basically the tarot really as a tool to go through with my mediumship and to go through with my psychic abilities. So I kind of like use them to hide behind, if that's makes sense to you. I then started telling people things that wasn't on the card. And obviously they were saying, well, yes, and how do you know this, and blah, blah, blah. But to be honest with you, even today, I've been doing this for 25 years, and even today, I'm still a little bit sceptical. Not sceptical in the sense of non-believing. I have to have more evidence. I have to work myself more. I have to have spirit work with me more and tell me more things, if that makes sense to you. And I think that's because of my own human ego, if I'm honest.
Sorry, your own what?
My own human ego.
Oh, your human ego. I thought it was all one word then. I thought that's a new word. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, my own human ego. Because obviously we've all got that inner thought, haven't we? Yeah. We've all got instinct, and, you like to have something proven, don't you?
Well, it's an insatiable desire to learn more and more and more, isn't it?
Yeah. And, obviously I then became a teacher. I had quite a lot of students, and to be honest with you, I didn't see them as students. I seen them as I was guiding them.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, every person is very individual to themselves, and all I was doing was giving them a bit of confidence and just showing them a little of my way, and then for them to find theirs, if that makes sense. So, that's the way I decided to help others, and I still help. I do an awful lot for charity. It's a big thing of mine, to help people with charity. But my main, not a lot of people know, but my main job, as a witch and lady snake, is fertility witch.
Fertility?
Yes.
Oh.
That's what I do a lot of. Fertility.
That's a new concept for me.
Yeah. Have you had much success?
I have, yes. There was a newspaper article. I didn't want to be named, so I was called Wanda. But they put my photograph up, so it didn't kind of help, really.
Gotta love the press.
Yeah, they're fantastic, aren't they?
Oh, God.
But yes, I helped a couple, and they decided to put the story in themselves they wanted. And when I talked to them afterwards, they said, look, we just wanted to get a little bit of money to go on a holiday, with the little, and I thought, all right, okay, fair enough. So I then agreed to, some of it as well. I didn't get a choice, really, because they'd slapped me photos everywhere. And then I got a lot of calls from there on, and obviously I do run a coven as well, and we do an awful lot of work behind the scenes for people, and it's all free. Sometimes it was just like a little donation, or if they give to charity, then we'd work and do a lot of our magic and our spell work and rituals and that sort of thing. So
I think that's really, really good. I really do think, and obviously, like this couple, they got pregnant, didn't they? The ones in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, that whether it's, because I got an awful lot of backlash from it as well. And it didn't bother me, to be honest with you. Backlash, the way I see it, is, it's just other people's opinions. Unless they're there and they see it and they, work with it, then they're not, it's hard to believe, isn't it? But I've had a lot of success, with lots and lots of clients. Obviously with that, you get the silly ones, like I've had a few lately that have asked me for the incubus or the succubus, Some I want to have sex with them, and
the type of people I had sex with my ghost type person, yeah.
So I do say, go and I've been polite and said, look, go and see a doctor. You might have an addiction, or there might be something that they can help you with.
You are polite, aren't you? I know what I'd say.
Nap off.
I wasn't polite when I first started, but after 25 years, you get used to kind of knowing where your P's and Q's are.
Oh, God, who wants sex with an incubus or a succubus? Honest to God.
I know.
Takes all types, doesn't it? Takes all types. Let's face it. So, how long did it take you to actually learn the craft?
You know what? I have a lot of people asking me the same question.
Before you go on, what I wanted to know was, did you start learning it and then automatically your own intuition came into it, where you didn't have to follow books because you were able to do it without,
Right. Please forgive me now, because I've got nothing against any authors, any writers, because. But I do feel as though if you're going to read a book, it's somebody else's personality and somebody else's work.
How many times have I told you that, Mark?
Yes, you have.
Yes,
she tells me all the time, don't read books. It's like, well, I read to get ideas, but you're right. It's you're still getting that author's point of view.
Getting away from the books. What I mean is, if you've learnt the craft, maybe you learnt it off of somebody, but was there a time when you realised that you didn't need to go their way because your intuition kicked in, your senses kicked in, your emotions kicked in, where you were able to produce stuff in a completely different way?
Very much so.
Your way, not their way or anybody else's way.
I did teach my coven not to read books because obviously... I still teach them today to go. You are right, Irene. I teach them to go with their own gut instincts, with their own intuition, with their own stuff that's in their own, auras, and with their own energy. And to be honest with you, whether you call them spirit guides, whatever people wish to call them, guardians, whatever, it comes down to that. And I've never really, I had a little bit of teaching, obviously, when I was in the coven, but I was very young, very naive, and I came out at 19. and decided that from there on I was going solitary and I was going to continue on with my own work. And I've never, it's never done me no wrong. But what I am going to say is I don't sit there with the students and say, right, I know best and I know this and that, because everybody is learning every single day. We're all basically learning from each other. Someone that's just been in it for a week can teach me something. So, it's very much, as far as I'm concerned, you learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree there. I definitely agree there. Everybody's different,
Yeah.
And what works for one may not work for another.
Exactly. Well, that's why we have different mediums, different witches, different other people. That's what the paranormal is about, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. I am sensing Mark is pulling at the leash here.
No, actually, I'm sitting back and I'm listening. So much for your psychic intuition.
Yeah, that went wrong, didn't it?
Yeah.
Haven't had enough grapes, have I?
Oh, there you go. Well, in asking with what is it that first attracted you towards witchcraft? Now, do you? There's the difference between Wicca and witchcraft. One, Wicca is a religion, or recognized as a religion. Witchcraft, I guess, is more of a practice. Which way do you lean more towards?
Right, I was waiting for this one to come to me, because a lot of people ask me the same thing as to white witch, black witchcraft, everything, and I say the same answer every single time, and that is I'm a witch. There's no black, there's no white in my eyes. The way I see it, a witch is a witch, and to be honest with you, I don't, okay, you've got the 20th century, you've got the witchcraft, you've got the Wiccan. I just say witch for a simple reason, because I like to practice everything. It's not just one specific thing like a neo-pagan or, an Egyptian, witchcraft. I think it's all in one, and we have to learn as we're going along.
Well, Wiccan's more modern, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it's 20th century.
Yeah, well, witch is, witch goes way back, Mark.
So if you say old seer, the old seer or the old, to me, a witch is someone that was way back in its time and before even medicine. And there she was doing her herbs and helping out and helping with births and God knows whatever else, helping as
a wise woman, the old wise woman of the village type thing.
Yeah, whatever she needed to be. That to me is a witch. I don't really like a mark on myself, to be honest with you. And that's why I don't debate with a lot of people. And I just go, I'm a witch. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, from somebody who admittedly doesn't have a lot of understanding of it, I'll ask some questions just because I'm curious to make sure I'm fully understanding, some of the concepts you're talking about. Now, when you're talking about witchcraft or witches, sages, old seers, in a lot of ways, it sounds very similar to shamanism, or like how the old shamans were considered in a lot of, especially Aboriginal cultures. The same kind of thing. Everything from a healer to communing with spirits or energies or ceremonies, etc. What do you think of that?
I actually agree with you there, Mark, because at the end of the day, whether it's a shaman, whether it's a voodoo priestess, whether it's it's a bit of everything, to be honest with you. And this is what you're there to learn. You're there to learn other cultures. The Indians, my uncle always said we was Red Indian, and he brought me up from a teenager, constantly putting it in my ear holes that I was a Red Indian. I sat and listened to him and listened to lots of stories and whatnot. But to me, I believe in past lives. I believe in we've been here before. I believe we've got a certain path. I don't believe in a full path, but I do believe in a certain path. And I do believe that, to me, witchcraft, whatever it is, it's all a learning curve in my eyes. And I feel as though everything is one. When people ask me, are you a clairvoyant? Are you a medium? Are you a psychic? I actually say I'm a psychic witch. The reason why I say I'm a psychic witch, because it means I do everything from healing to witchcraft, to being a medium, to being, it's just that people like to have a mark. They like to have a name, and I don't agree with that.
They like their labels, and of course the labels are so limiting. Yes. And box you into a corner that it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface on who you are.
Exactly. And, I've got people at the moment that say, well, I'm a sensitive and I'm an empath and I'm like, oh God, okay. And I'm an energy reader. And I said, well, everybody's an energy reader, otherwise our auras wouldn't be connecting together.
Well, so Irene always calls me a pain in the arse. And I think that's a pretty...
Irene's always right.
Pretty broad brush there, I think.
I'm glad I'm saying nothing to that one.
I'm always right. I'm never wrong. It is a pain in the jacksie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a common thing.
To me, it is. No, he's not really. Well, he's one of the best. One of the best.
Well, with the term, we have a similar term that we use for Irene for her background. We call her an extrasensor, because any of the other terms that people can use just doesn't quite add up. And then you say, well, I'm an extrasensor. People go, what is that? It's like, well, because they have no idea. Well, that's actually probably a good thing, because then they can't put you in a little niche box.
That's it. They can't. And I can't be bothered with being pestered either. I'm one of these people. But, you're talking about seers earlier on. I'm related to the brown seer, Conecadale.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah. And one of my other relatives was burnt as a witch a long time ago, Mark, long before my time, and I know how much you'd love to burn me.
I was going to say, how did they miss you?
I don't know. I'm not a witch, am I? So I wouldn't know.
How do you know you're a witch? Sorry,
is it.
Had to do my Monty Python impersonation.
Witch, Wendy, that is right.
How do I know I'm a witch? Yeah, you know what? That's a good question, isn't it? Because who knows whether you are or whether you're not? All I know is I believe in. I've got my own belief system. I work with nature. I work with the sun and the moon. I don't believe in any. I've got nothing against religion to anybody, but I don't have a religion. It doesn't make me atheist either. I just feel as though I need to help people, and whether it's helping on a psychic or a mediumship level, or whether it's helping on a witchcraft level and doing little rituals or candle magic or whatever it is that I need to do. To be honest with you, I'd just like to say I'm a witch. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm totally opposite. I will not have labels. That's why Mark calls me an extrasensor, because, it just befuddles everybody. But I do not like labels. I don't like to be called a medium. I don't like to be called anything like that. So, I'm just me. I do what I do, and that's it,
See, that I find that fascinating.
I'm happy with that.
Because Irene, I had one of my spirit guides, and at the time they said to me they was light, and I couldn't figure it, because of my human side of things. And I said, what do you mean light? And in the end I called this, I gave it a name because for its sake, really, not for theirs. And they said that, that they wasn't really of earth, and that they was just light, and I still couldn't fathom it, so I called them Angie, which was lovely, and then pulled it in. So I find that quite fascinating, really, because obviously you're quite broad, aren't you, with everything that you're saying, and you're more advanced in one sense.
I don't know about that. Mark, would you say I was advanced?
I think that's a pretty safe bet, considering some of the many experiences we've had together.
That sounds good, doesn't it? Don't take that as it sounds.
No. But I mean, 6,000
miles of water between the two of us.
That's true. That's true. No naughty thoughts now, everybody. No, but I mean, between the conversations we've had, the things that have happened while we're having those conversations. And your background, definitely. I mean, in fact, that's one of the things that we get into such really deep conversations, both on the air and off. I mean, there's a lot of concepts we've discussed off the air that we can't bring onto the air because people would think we're bloody daft.
No, they wouldn't. They just wouldn't understand because it's mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, that's, like I said, they think we were daft. Or it's
basically the minimum.
Well, it would threaten their paradigm. You know, in fact, a lot of all this, we deal currently in a society that has very rigid points of view, from one extreme to the other, and trying to break through a lot of the conditioning, the societal conditioning, what we've been taught over the years on how to view the world. But it's all subjective. I mean, the world is a much stranger place and more wonderful place than we imagine, because we're being confined by these worldviews that we're taught as children. You know, whether you come from a very religious point of view or a certain cultural point of view, you know, you look at things through those colored glasses. And when you're presented with new information, a lot of people react very badly to it because it's a threat to their beliefs.
Yes, exactly. I do agree with that. Mark, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
When did you get into the paranormal, start?
Oh, well, for me, I mean, I've always been interested in it. I've dabbled a little bit here and there, but didn't seriously get into it until almost 20 years ago when I moved from Los Angeles here I live in northern New Jersey, and I moved into a house that had activity, and a lot of things started happening, and I did some research, called in a paranormal group. They did an investigation. I got hooked, joined them, worked with them for a few years, and started my own group and ran that for about 10 years. And then, Irene and I have been doing these radio shows for a number of years now, and just very involved in the learning process.
Great. Thank you. Irene, can I ask you the same question, please?
Well, simple. 68 years ago.
Wow. Okay,
yes, everybody, I'm a grandmother.
Okay.
And I put blonde dye on my hair. Okay, forget it. I've got grey hair underneath. I'm sure I have. Well, I wouldn't know, actually. I put dye on it. Yeah, 68 years ago.
And have you? I think I've noticed that you've written books.
You make a good interviewer, wouldn't you?
Yes. Well, she has done a lot of radio before.
She's turned this radio show round.
Yes.
Yes, I have written books, yeah.
Because obviously I haven't really looked into it too much because obviously the time, and I've been trying to figure out my Skype. But what sort of books have you written, please, Irene?
I've written... Mark could tell you better than I could. I wrote them, but Mark's handled them.
I edited and published them. Well, she wrote her first book. She wrote her autobiography, Life Among the Spirits, which talks about...
That mainly would answer your question, how long I've been in it.
The other two books are actually fiction novels, paranormal-based novels, but... Yeah, some of them based on loosely upon some experiences of hers, and she's currently working on.
What are they called again, Mark?
The Psychic Spy, Recruited, and Where Demons Dwell. Where Demons Dwell,
The Tower.
Well, now that's my interest, so I'd most probably have a nosy at that one. And you're at
which one? Where Demons Dwell?
Yeah.
That's a good book. It is a good book. It takes place in Amalfi on the southern Italian coast, where I go every year. I've been going there since 1971. So I wrote a book on the actual village that I go to, but I just changed the name of it. And it's a good book, isn't it, Mark?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. You wrote it all out, and then you and I worked on it together and cleaned it up.
Yeah, and closed the blooming plot
holes. But
we do everything together, everything.
And what brought you both together? What brought you both together?
I can't remember.
It was a stalker, actually.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, let's put it this way. It was somebody that Irene used to run a group, Spirit Rescue International. And one of her past members was over here in the States, and I had interviewed him on another show, and I was aware of him. And then he introduced me to Irene, and then we started talking and hit it off, and I joined her group for a while. And then we realized he was stalking and doing a bunch of very unsavory things, and cut ties with him. And then, we've just been together ever since, trying to find the next thing for us to work on.
Yeah. Pain in my jacksie. Absolute pain in my jacksie. Yeah.
Put your gel.
No, but that book, I think, I with Demons Dwell, I wrote the book and I threw it in, well, not physically, but, as a computer, I kind of binned it. I didn't want nothing else to do with it. I didn't think it was good enough or anything. And one day I was chatting to Mark about it, and he said, well, let me have a look at it. So he looked at it. He saw the potential in it. He said, you've got a few plot holes here. Plot holes, not potholes, plot holes. They need clothes. And he said, and once we get that sorted out, the book should be okay. So, and it's become one of my favourites now. Yeah.
So, but did you enjoy doing them? That's the main thing.
No, I'm terrible.
Didn't you?
I am so bone idle, lazy when it comes to writing. Do you know, I've been writing this, I'm on 2 books at the moment. The sequel to Demons Dwell, which is what's it called? The Alchemist.
Yes.
And also the sequel to Psychic Spy, which is The Spy in Paris. And I've been at it for 3 years now, and I'm not getting anywhere with them, Plus, I've also started another one now on Russian remote viewing and psyops and things like that in the Russian field. I haven't told Mark about that one yet. He doesn't know about that one.
Well, I do now.
Well, that's going to be interesting, especially with what was going on in the war days and everything else with all of that. Because I can remember the remote viewing and what they did back in the war and things like that. So that's going to be interesting. What you write there.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. Hopefully, it will be. It's going to be hard work, but it will be, I hope.
Brilliant.
So, and also I'm doing another book, which I'm not doing it. Mark and I are doing it together. It's like a coffee table book, isn't it, Mark? That's the only thing you can call it, a coffee table book.
Yes.
It's an amalgamation of beautiful photographs that I've taken in Italy. And we explain where these photographs, the history behind the photographs, if it was an old monastery, the history of the monastery, this, that, or whatever. We want to sell that or put that out so that we can help children with disabilities. All the royalties go to children with disabilities.
That's a big plus for me because, I've got 7 children and I've got 3 of them with disabilities. So, and the kids themselves don't see themselves with disabilities, do they?
No, they don't.
Or magic in my eyes. So, fantastic news. I'm really, really pleased to hear that because
well, we're doing that together, aren't we, Mark?
Yes, that one, and if we ever get around to figuring out the angle on the paranormal book.
Oh, yeah, that one as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's quite a few in the pipeline, and like I said, I am a bone idle writer. If I could get a ghostwriter to write for me, I'd be quite happy. But
well, you could get Herbert. Herbert could be your literal ghostwriter. Herbert's her resident ghost, by the way.
Yeah, it'll come out in Welsh, you know that. Start off, Diolch, everybody. Diolch. Yeah. I live in Wales, by the way, now. I used to live in London, but I moved to Wales and bought this old haunted house.
Oh, fab.
Mm.
Yeah. See, it's like myself, a lot of people, because I haven't been yet, and someone said to me, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to Alcatraz. And they're like, why? People go away from these things, Wendy, and you want to go to these things? And I said, well, yeah. I said, because, I want to feel. I've always had a dream since a young age of going to Alcatraz. I don't know whether it's a past life connection or something, but I'm just so drawn to wanting to go there and anything to do. Sorry about that. I do apologise. It's my nothing I can do about that. I don't know how to work it. Sorry.
Are you talking about that, Mark, only a couple of weeks ago? Mark, don't worry about it. You just sit there, Mark. I'll talk.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, only a couple of weeks ago, he visited one of these. Well, very. It was
Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. That's where Al Capone, who also was in Alcatraz, also had a stay in Eastern State for a while.
Yeah, he done a stint there.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, see, I don't know what it is that draws me, but I will go. I will get there, and obviously, I want to do it on the paranormal side of things, and whether it's on a personal level, I'll be doing that. It's the same with when I was in Vegas last year doing the live show. I actually went a couple of days after and went into the museum myself to go and experience, the same as everybody else, really, rather than in my work things. And oh wow, it was amazing.
This was Zach Bagans' museum?
Yes, it was. Obviously, you get a tour, and the tour guides are brilliant. They're very knowledgeable in what they're doing, but I wasn't really interested in that. I was just interested in, leave me alone. I need to go here. I need to go there. And there's that many energies within the place, and where you get drawn. And mine, obviously, apart from working with Ed Gein and a few others, mine was the Mason painting, drawn me in. And I couldn't figure out what it was, and I kept looking, and I was going, it's the eyes. And then I got told, well, it would be because his ashes are in the eyes. And I thought, oh, God, typical. But, it's one of those places that you go in, and you're expecting the things that he's mentioned to you that you're going to get drawn to, and you get drawn to something completely different. While you're in there, and the energies that's in the place. I'm not saying everything's paranormal, because it's not. You've got some positive things there, but I just obviously as myself, as being Wendy and walking in, that many energies was throwing at me. I had to bring Lady Snake back, and so to speak, and pick myself up and control them energies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Well, since you brought that up, let's talk a little bit about, you've had a couple of appearances on the Ghost Adventures television show here in the States. And the first...
Is that the one Jeff's on?
Yes, Jeff was on... No. Yeah, one of our new show hosts, Jeff Davis, was just on Ghost Adventures right around the Halloween time, when they were over in Portland, Oregon.
Jeff Davis got a show with us.
I didn't get to meet a lot of them. Believe it or not, I know this sounds really weird, but because they pulled me on as a special guest, I'd been working a few days, and I wasn't allowed to speak to anybody. I just kind of did my work, and then I got kicked in, where I was going, into the dungeon, so to speak, and left there.
Yeah. Well, that Halloween special was very entertaining and interesting. Though I want to go back to your original appearance. Now, I believe you were also in the episode. Not only there was the Ancient Ram Inn, which I think you're most well known for, but you also appeared, I believe, when at the. Oh, good Lord.
Hellfire Caves.
Yes, the Hellfire Caves.
Yes. Obviously, I first met the boys back in 2009. And believe it or not, it was my radio show. I was on a radio show, and then I got a call, and they wanted a protection spell at first, and then it obviously evolved from there. And I can remember the first time that I met the boys, because what you see is what you got with them. You know, and I don't think they was expecting this real witch to be standing there. I think they was expecting this, you know, fake witch, so to speak, and then realised, oh no, it's not. And then obviously I'd done the ramming with them. I loved the comments afterwards, because I was Wonder Woman, you know, that had too many burgers, which I thought was fantastic. Just the way I seen it is yay. And obviously I was called back for the Hellfire Caves, and obviously the boys do have to evolve, because, you know, obviously it's TV and they have to do things. But what I did notice was they were still the same lads that I knew in 2009. You know, we pratted about. I was playing Batman in the Caves, to be honest with you, with Aaron. So kind of like said it all. And obviously I worked with them on that, and then I've done a little bit of work behind the scenes as well, obviously, from help from emails and things like that. I don't just work with Ghost Adventures, I work with other people that I can't really name. I'm awful sorry, but a lot of people come to me for you know, my guidance and spells and things like that, which I do help with for their TV programs and things like that. So I'm quite
we've more than likely had them all on the radio. You know, the amount of people we've had is unbelievable.
I know, I am honoured. And then obviously I got asked to do Vegas for the first time. I'm not going to turn that down now, am I? Come on, it's a holiday. So I went there, and I didn't even know what I was doing, to be honest with you. And there's one thing, and this is where a lot of people have said that it's scripted. Well, it's not. Well, it certainly isn't for me, because as Zach knows me too well, I do my spell work there and then. You know, I'll give him an idea, and then I change it on him. I always changed it on him. So with the first live one with Ed, I didn't know even what was going on myself. To be honest with you. So that one was quite funny. And then obviously the live one, I did know what I was doing. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I wasn't expecting another witch in again on the live one. So that was a shocker.
Yeah, that part where they brought in the other lady, and her name escapes me at this point in time, and
was that the lady that was dressed in white?
Yeah, that's I think that's Patty Naguri or Naguri?
Yeah, Patty Naguri. And they have worked with her on a few other episodes, and there was that automatic tension that came up between the two of you that I was watching it and trying to understand if the tension was coming from you or if it was coming from an outside source, but it was almost like two opposite magnetic forces opposing each other coming into that room.
You could more or less see the actual flames coming out and hitting each other. You know, like when you see the wizards doing their bit at each other, sort of thing.
The first one, the Ed Gein one, was the fact that as with all witches, when you go into another witch's room, you must respect them and ask permission to enter.
Yeah.
And she hadn't asked to enter, so it got shackled straight up.
Yeah.
So, and then she came in and told me what spell I'd done, so we got me shackles up again.
Oh, she would have got a Glasgow kiss off of me, straight between the eyes.
I then decided to tell her to get out, not very nicely.
Yeah.
And she decided that, no, she's not, and that she wanted to challenge. At the same time now, I had Ed Gein, and I'd been talking with him, and I had his energy. And what I couldn't say on the TV was exactly what he was telling me in my ear holes. And I still can't say it over here. But what I can say is that something along, if anybody knows Ed Gein and what he was like and how he was with the women before he threw them in the pot.
Yeah.
It's on a sexual nature. And he quite liked Patty. And he made it quite clear to me that he liked Patty and what he wanted to do. So I had to kind of control his energy as well as my own, as well as having Patty kind of jump at me at the same time with her energy. So I was kind of 3 in 1 at me. And I was trying my best to protect her, really, to be honest with you. Not be nasty with her, to protect her. And in the end, I did, I think I said something along the lines of she was going to go in the pot and I was going to whack her or something. I know that happened. I know that later on afterwards, I did apologise. I did apologise to Patsy, and she kind of like didn't really talk back with me.
So, well, that's when she would have got a Glasgow kiss off of me. You know what Glasgow kiss is, Mark?
Yeah. Oh,
Headbutt straight between the eyes.
Oh.
That's a Glasgow kiss.
Correct.
It nearly happened this time.
Did it?
Live. Because at the live, she'd came in and I thought it was great because she'd come in and she said, look, I took Ed home with me. And I said, oh, good. You know, then you know how it felt. You know, I wasn't lying, and it was a connection.
Should have said, "Did you have a good night?"
And but then she came up into my face. What a lot of people didn't see on the live was the breaks, and Patty had come up into my face and said, "What am I going to do about it?" And my thoughts in my head was, I'm just about to throw my head. And then I thought, no. Stand back, and I just laughed instead because my energy, I was letting my own ego energy jump in again instead of my professional energy. So I had to fight myself again. But what I couldn't understand was why a white witch was brought back in because of what I was asked to do. So I got a little bit baffled.
Well, I think being a typical television, you know, it's done on purpose. They throw oil and vinegar together and see what's going to happen, or more like gasoline on a fire, you know, and they don't tell you because then they want the real reactions. I mean, the one thing about Ghost Adventures, which I admit is my guilty pleasure show. I've watched that show from the beginning. I love it. And, you know, it gets a lot of criticism, which I think rightfully so. I've never believed it was scripted or faked. Because I've seen I've been on several shows myself. So, and I've told my stories before on, you know, I know how Hollywood works. I got my film degree. I've worked on productions, and I know how producers are. And I know how a lot of these shows are faked, or how what's filmed gets edited and is manipulated. And, you know, I used to talk with, you know, he's no longer with the show, Nick Groff, in the early days when they first started, and was talking to him. You know, he's a very nice gentleman and giving me, you know, advice. And I always respected that, you know, they were trying to do something genuine in their own way. Now, Zach is also a showman. And let's face it, if your paranormal television show is boring, it gets canceled.
Yeah.
Kind of like what just happened to Nick with Paranormal Lockdown. They canceled it because, as I've always said, you know, this is not a knock for Nick. I like Nick. I support Nick. I think it's crappy what they did to him. But Paranormal Lockdown was about as exciting as watching paint dry. Yeah. And
I agree with that, Mark. And as you said, it you know, he kept it too real. Let's be honest, you know, because that's what Nick's about. Nick really does like everything real and things like that. And I'm not saying there was anything faked, but you do have to have that showmanship in you, or you do have to have that little bit of ego there for it to work.
Well, and the reason Ghost Adventures works so well is because Zach is so over the top and jumping to conclusions. And, you know, Aaron is like freaking out, dude, oh my God, you know, I'm so scared, you know, which none of us would tolerate in a real investigation. But, you know, it makes for good television. Do I think that most of their experiences that they've gotten on the show are real? Yes, I do. I totally disagree with a lot of what they think they hear in their EVPs or spirit box sessions. You know, that spirit box, which I have one, is such a dubious tool because no matter what you do to it, it will still pick up radio stations. So
yes, I agree.
You have to be careful with it. But, again, it's entertainment. And, I've thought some of the cases that they've done, including, the ancient Ram's Inn and even his museum, the couple of episodes they shot there have been very compelling. But you can also see the showmanship behind it. They got to ramp things up to keep people entertained.
Yes.
Well, that's it. And what was the lady's name? The other witch?
Patsy.
Patsy Nagale, or
Patsy.
Was she American? Is she American or
Yes.
English? Or
Patty, but obviously I did check her out afterwards because I was like, right, who are you? Because obviously I don't watch, believe it or not, I don't watch Ghost Adventures because obviously I'm in the UK and I'm not really into the paranormal here because I do it for a living. So I try and keep away from it. So I went and had a look and, we befriended each other on Twitter and whatnot. And I believe she's a producer herself and many shows, and she does a lot. She's a medium herself, a psychic medium herself, and she's a white witch now. She was a witch, but now she's a white witch, which is fine. That's her thing, and she does an awful lot of talks and everything else, and I wish her luck in what she does. Just stay away from me.
But she's more than likely quite a nice lady in her own right, except for the fact is on this particular day, it didn't quite work out that way. To
be honest with you, Irene, I don't think we've had that chance to sit down and to talk, either before a show or after a show. Obviously I would work with the lady again, but I would like to have a conversation. I would like to say, hello, I'm Wendy.
Well, yeah, that's it. It breaks the ice, doesn't it? But then again, you wouldn't, then bringing her on suddenly like that and her intruding on your space and one thing or another.
It did. Yeah, it got what they wanted.
Yeah, they got what they wanted. They got the reaction. They got the energy flying back and forth. But at the end of the day, I would have said afterwards, look, I'm sorry about that. But, it's show business.
At the end of the day, I did on the first one. And, I can't make people, come and talk to me or like me or whatever. I did like the other gentleman that I met there. He was doing vampire teeth and whatnot. Yes, he was doing. He was an ex-dentist, and he does vampire teeth. Father Sebastian.
Oh yeah, I think I've said yeah.
Yeah, and I got on with him very much. So we had a good little debate, in the kitchen area. So I did get on with him, because I do like to get on with people, and obviously, and Bloody Mary. I I laugh when it comes to Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Such
I've had one or two of them lately as well.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Yeah. Bloody Mary, gone.
Yeah, she's a lovely lady, but likes her own voice and certainly pushed herself in. So, but that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what I wanted to ask, what did you actually think of the Ram in itself, the building?
Right. When I first walked in,
not so much the succubus, but the building itself. Because it's got so much history, hasn't it?
It was absolutely fantastic till I walked in it. Obviously, from the outside, you could just sense it. You could feel it. You knew there was nothing around it. There was no houses there. Because I tend to see things in its past, and I could see it as its original. And I did actually go outside, and I did on a psychic level pick up quite a bit because I picked up some tunnels, and I picked up something to do with church, it belonging to a church, and then I picked up something to do with a stable and whatnot. So, and then it was validated afterwards. So I was quite happy with that. Obviously, I loved John. I thought he was a nutcase, but he was a lovely nutcase.
Yeah.
We sat in the garden.
Well, he's eccentric, isn't he?
Definitely he was. And, got on with his daughter, and we sat there for hours having a good conversation because he thought I was an angel, and then he realised I was a witch. So that was... So apart from obviously the inside, which was quite a mess, and then all been sorted now, and obviously when I was doing the spell work, it was a hot day, this is what gets me, and I think this is what turned Aaron from being, because he said to me, I love God and I'm very much into my religion and everything else. And the day after he said to me, I'm really into paganism and pagan side of things, and witchcraft side of things, I'm going to look into it, so I found that interesting that I could turn his head slightly to stuff. But exactly what was happening there, we wanted to do it outside. It was really sunny, we was all getting a bit of sunburn on us. And then I decided to do it inside. And considering the amount of heat that was outside, and I walked in and it was just freezing cold, absolutely freezing once. But like you say, I didn't open up a circle, they did. And Nick was very reluctant. Nick didn't want to do it from the beginning. He was very reluctant, and then obviously Zach was all for it. Aaron wasn't, and they was all arguing amongst each other, and I was too busy getting myself protection on my own coven.
Yeah. Did you have a good look around the whole building?
Yes,
because there was children's bodies found there, things stuffed up the fireplaces. It's quite
an interesting.
There's a lot of witchcraft stuff going on there in the day.
To be honest with you, I went and done a paranormal night with my own team afterwards. Yeah. To check it out properly. I picked up a lot of past stuff. I didn't pick up witchcraft exactly in the building, but I did pick up witchcraft around. Yeah. Which was interesting. And it was more about the ley lines and everything else that was there. There was a lady within the property, but whether she was a witch or not, they said she was a witch. So I assumed she was. Quite nasty. But
what about the bodies of the children? Has anyone ever found out why those children were buried under that floor?
To be honest with you, I've not seen it. I've looked into the history of it all, and I haven't picked it up. I've picked up that there was graves in the back garden area, which was just outside the house. And there was stuff there, but not under the building. So I can't, and I went straight back through, and I went through the church records and everything else, and I couldn't find anything. But it doesn't mean there wasn't there. And people are saying that because it was a highway, it was a highways pub, wasn't it? A highway men would go there. So, you don't know whether it's someone that was pregnant or a child or lost a child, or the child was very ill with something on the day and age and then they died there. I don't know, to be honest with you, Irene, but obviously there is children there, but what? Whether it was a death or whether it was a plague or whether it was, murder, I don't think any of us can really answer that.
Because that place reminds me of the Mermaid Inn at Rye, although the Mermaid Inn obviously is well kept. It's a hotel and everything, but it dates back to the days of the pirates and God knows what else, So
there's got to be a lot there. There's got to be lots going on.
Oh, yeah. Definitely got to be lots going on. Absolutely. And what's the matter, Mark?
I didn't say nothing.
I thought you were going.
You're hearing things.
Noises. Yeah, maybe I am. Okay. Carry on then.
Well, I'm going to ask, when you were doing these rituals, both the Ram Inn and at Zach's museum, especially at the museum, what I'm curious about is you were up front, were trying to, tell me if I'm wrong, summon a quote-unquote demon. Or something negative coming into this space. Now, was that something that they asked you to do? Or was that something you felt compelled to do? That's question number one. Question number two is, what do you consider to be a demon or negative entity? What does that mean to you?
Right. The first question is, I was asked to bring chaos to obviously Zach Baggins' Haunted Museum, and that I did. Okay. Whether you would call that a negative energy, whether you would call that a demon, whether you would call it, there's that many different names for these things. It's entirely up to how people perceive it. And this is what I was asked to bring in, some sort of chaos within the building to make everybody not realise or to forget what they're doing. And I do believe that worked, because it was a right mess, with everybody, including the rabbi and everything else that was going on. So I do feel as though my work was very much done. As for the demon side of things, I'm going to say no, because at the end of the day, if you call it a succubus, incubus, was it the ram in? They called that in themselves. I do not call in, demons and that sort of thing in. If they want that, they do it themselves. I do not do it, because I do believe in threefold, tenfold, within. So I do believe in some of the 20th century stuff as well as the old stuff. So, and demons, dark entities, negative energies, we're never going to be able to say, right, well, I've seen a demon, because what is a demon? A demon is something that you see and perceive for yourself, not, one drawing to one person could be a demon, might be an angel to another, so that is a long drawn question, really, that it can't be answered.
Well, Irene and I have had many discussions over this too, because she, in her work over the years, has encountered some pretty nasty things. What people would, especially here in the States, where everyone seems to be demon happy. But
I don't call them demons.
No. That's the thing, is that's part of the discussions we have, because I don't particularly believe in demons per se, not in the biblical sense. Now, we are dealing with, and one of the things that I've been learning through my years of research is the different types of energies and entities that we share this plane with, that are very intelligent, can be very powerful, could be benign or malevolent, depending on their intent or how we interpret their intent. And, we've looked at different mythologies going, the mythologies of Great Britain and Ireland and Scotland, everything from fairies to leprechauns and trolls in Europe, or elves in Iceland, a jinn in the Middle East. They all...
And the one he never mentions is pixies.
Pixies.
I say it every time. And the pixies.
Yeah, you can find those down in West Hollywood, anyway, or Greenwich Village, or in the Village.
Yeah.
But
they're all Earth elementals.
Yes.
All Earth elementals. And these are names that are given by man.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
I agree.
Yeah, go on, Mark. Oh, sorry, Wendy.
No, it's okay. Sorry, go on, Mark.
No, actually, I was wanting to hear your take on that.
To be honest with you, I actually agree. There's that many different names for different things. I can remember going to somewhere called Widnes, where I live, with Steve Parsons. Actually, I don't know if you know him.
I know of Steve Parsons.
Yeah, and we ended up with a good debate, because this lady said that she had imps in her home, and Steve Parsons was, nope, there's no such thing, blah blah blah. I went in and said, sorry, Steve, there is such things.
Black ones. Well, they're black ones.
To be honest with you, what I seen, even I ran at first, to be honest with you, Irene, because I was only young at the time. And to be honest with you, I seen them on the dog, of all things.
Were they black?
Yes. Yeah. Very much, very tiny, very ugly things. They looked, I did say at the time, which was the wrong thing to say as well.
They can be little buggers.
Oh, tell me about it. I ended up, I got them by giving them a biscuit, a cookie. Honest to God, it was
yeah.
Cookie, that was it. And, they kind of left. And all it was down to was the fact that the owner had chopped down their tree. Believe it or not, they chopped down their tree. So whether it was imp or whether it whatever it was, I actually said, right, okay, you've got to go and plant a tree back, and you've got to go and give them a gift, which was the cookies and everything else. And then that was it. They left them alone. So, to actually, I didn't believe myself until I seen, and when you see something, and I think that's basically it for everybody, really, isn't it? You're not going to believe until you see something. You don't believe a ghost until you see a ghost. You don't believe in, in lots of things, but there is an awful lot out there that can't be explained, Zach's demon house, that kid walking up that wall, there's that much going on, and you've got that many different people doing their own thing. And I think there's one thing that everybody can say, and I did tell Zach this, and that was a witch. If you do believe in a devil, then a devil will literally trick anybody.
That's right.
I was married to one for a few years. I was married to one for a few years.
Oh, you are
the succubus.
She just suck you from everything.
Suck the life right out of me. Anyway, a lot of what you were just talking about with the imps and appeasing them, their environment, that goes right back to, again, other tales of, Celtic Shay fairy lore, and Icelandic elves. In Iceland, they respect the elves so much that they build highways around where they consider their homes to be, so as not to disturb them. Hollywood goes there to film a whole bunch of movies these last few years, and they always have to do leave gifts to appease the elves in order to have a smooth shoot. Otherwise, they start having all sorts of technical problems. We had Barry Fitzgerald on before. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's written several books and has done a lot of investigations into the Celtic Shay and fairy lore. And a lot of the old stories are very similar to that. It's not that these things are benevolent or malevolent. It's, sometimes if you trespass or you do something against them you're not supposed to, they're going to retaliate.
Exactly. And, because at the end of the day, and this is where a lot of humans need to understand this, there is more than us on this planet, whether it's hidden or whether it isn't. If you just kind of keep your mind straight, which is what I call a skeptic, no offense, and I don't mean that to anybody nasty, because no one's really that skeptical, because otherwise there wouldn't be paranormal, would there? So, you've got this. And to me, there's that much out there. We've got loads to learn yet. And then our children, there's lots to find out, isn't there, really, about all of this stuff. But it goes way back.
Well, here in America, they don't think about it as much. But the Native Americans who were here long before us, firmly dealt with the different spirits and nature spirits or nature entities around here. And I've mentioned several times in past shows about there's a long ongoing case that I worked on here in New Jersey where this one whole section of a town, the whole neighborhood was having activity. And, we went in treating it as at first a haunting, but the more we researched it and the more we looked into it, I started to realize there is a lot of similarities based on a lot of what you hear on the fairy lore. And we realized whatever was there was attached to the land, not to any one house, because several houses were having activity. And sometimes it got to be fairly malevolent, and was affecting the people who were living there. Yet, at the same time, it wasn't anything that we would call demonic or, nothing like that happened. But it was severely starting to affect the family that lived there up until they moved. And, there's a new family there now. I have no idea if they're experiencing anything or not. They probably are, because whatever is there is still attached to the land. It makes me think that when they built the homes back in the 1920s, they built it right on top of one of these, one of their dwellings or where they lived, disturbed the area, and now the people are living on top of it, so they're kind of retaliating.
I actually agree with that. I know that with a lot of mine, and I know it's obviously filmmaking, but I actually tell a lot of mine that Sixth Sense and the types of the others to go and watch them films, because I believe that they're a little bit, there's a lot of truth in them, especially the others, because obviously you are living, no matter where you live, there's going to be something. There's going to be a burial ground somewhere, or there's going to be something somewhere. I love the Native Americans because very much on my witchcraft side of things, and it's to do with ancestors and to do with everything else. And that's what it's about. It's about respect. And if you can respect the land and respect everything within it, then you're going to be okay. But if you don't, then obviously there's going to be... So all you need to do when you've got a new home is go outside, put something down that's going to be respectful, and you'll live both together. But when you're walking into a house and going, right, I'm going to cleanse it. A lot of people do this. They go cleansing these houses and say, right, this house is now mine. Well, no, it's not yours. There's been people there way before you. There's spirits there. There's spirit in every single house. It's whether you wish to work and live side by side with them. Respect. And that's just my view. I'm sorry to nag on, but it's a big belief of mine. So
that's so true as well. It is so true.
And again, people come in with the wrong knowledge. They've been told how to do certain things, and they're being told wrong how to approach certain types of activity. Whether they come it from a religious point of view, they think it's the devil and demonic, or they think it's a ghost. And sometimes it could be a human spirit, a nasty human spirit. Because let's face it, people are jerks, and whether they're dead or not, they could still be jerks. At the same time, so many, even so-called paranormal investigators, don't even think about. They go off of what they see on television, and they run out and try to duplicate it. They're not taking the time to actually research into these other types of experiences, putting all this... I'm going to sound egotistical here, but all the years of research that I have done, all the discussions that Irene and I have had, all the experiences I've had, has led me to where I am today. It's my worldview over the last 20 years alone has changed dramatically to where I don't believe in traditional quote unquote hauntings anymore. There are I don't want to say exactly other explanations, but it's a lot more strange and interesting than we think.
I agree with you, Mark, because a lot of people, when they come to me, they ask me to come and cleanse their homes. And the first thing I say to them is no. And they wonder why I won't go in and cleanse their homes. One, it's not about money making. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to say. And then secondly, it's most of the time it's their family members, or they've been thinking about them, or there's not long been a death, or, there's something going on within their life that's causing them to have them energies. And, there could be a paranormal explanation. It could be that someone's anniversary that's lived in the house before is coming up, and most of the time when people say my house is haunted, I do believe it's either a family member or it's just people that have lived there previously, and really all they need to do is work with them.
Well, this is it. My house is haunted, and it's the people that built the house. Lived here as a family. Yeah.
And I bet you have a good old laugh sometimes when they're funny hiding it.
Oh, crumbs, yeah.
Well, then
I've said this many a time. There's about 30 pairs of glasses gone missing. I mean, eyeglasses, and no end of cigarette lighters. And they turn up in the funniest places.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, and then where you live, Irene, but because of your ley lines there.
Well, this is Merlin country. Merlin was born where I was.
Yep.
Just down the road.
Well, you have
anyway.
You have your trespassing ghost too, like Stinky from the other day.
Oh, well, it might be old ghost. Yeah. Well, I haven't. He came. He went through. He came that time. He hung around in the house for a couple of hours. I knew he was moving through, and he was just not going to be there long. Then he disappeared. He was gone for about 3 weeks, and then he came back again. And both feet, I even know the direction he moved off and the direction he came back from. I even know. I know I can follow that energy line of where exactly, what direction he went in. And then he came back, he hung around for another couple of hours. I knew he wasn't going to be hanging around for long. And before I went to bed that night, he was gone. So we call him Stinky.
Right, okay.
A strong BO. Oh, my God. And I was the only one in the house those both times.
It's funny with the smells and, and if it's tobacco smoke or if it's, or if it's like a clean smell, or you always seem to smell them when spirits are around, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Well, what
definitely.
about your lavender scent in the bathroom?
Yeah. Well, that's Myra. Myra. Myra had one of these. She wore one of these. I can't say the word bags. What are they called? Colostomy bags.
Colostomy bags.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was very, very particular about the smell and everything. And she kept the downstairs bathroom absolutely smelling beautiful, because that was the only bathroom she could use, because she could no longer climb the stairs. She was sleeping downstairs in this room I'm in now. And when we first moved in, anyone that went in there and done a number 2, right? By the time you came out that door, within seconds, that whole bathroom, it would be clear when you went in, you do your poo, you come out, and before you got out the door, it was fill up with the smell of lavender. And this went on for about 6 months, until one day my son came down. And he'd had a good curry. Excuse me for being like this, people, but my son liked curry. Ew. And he ate a good curry, and he went in there and he came back out. He said, "Yes, let's see what Myra can do with that, Mum." So we walked, as soon as he said it to me, we walked straight back to the hallway. The hallway stunk of curry, right? Curry poo. Opened the bathroom door, and it was beautiful lavender.
Fantastic. See, I'd love that, especially in my house.
Yeah. I'm sorry for being rude, people, but that's how it worked. That is exactly what happened, and I'm not going to put cream on top of it, But that's it. And Herbert, my other ghost, he's the one that actually built the house. He was the father. And he was a deacon. I've said this many times. He was deacon at the local chapel, but he was always a blacksmith. And he sometimes, when he's around, the smell of burning metal and oil is unbelievable.
So obviously, Irene, these spirits are very happy with you being in the house, because they're visiting, and they're basically proud the fact that you're in their home and that you're.
Well, no, not in the beginning. I had trouble the first week.
Did you?
Yeah, I had to have a word with them. Sounds crazy, but I had a word with them in the kitchen, and I turned around and said, "Look, I'm not here to take your house away from you. Think of me as a housekeeper, because if I don't look after this house, and if I don't keep it clean, and if my husband doesn't keep it in good repair, the house is going to fall down." And from that time on, we never had any problems. Up until then, the occasional stone thrown at me or something like that every now and then, but I suppose that depends on what mood he's in.
Which I'm sure you deserved.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
But, there's 3 of them here. Well, I say 3. There is also, every now and then, I think this is not actually a ghost, but more a recording. Every now and then you'll hear pots, and there's 2 kitchens to the house, the main kitchen and a room which I now use as I've got the washing machine and tumble dryer in there. I use it as a utility now, and that's all that's in there really, in a boiler. But it used to be the kitchen, the main kitchen of the house, and you could hear pots and pans being rattled about in there as if someone's putting them away in the cupboard and one thing or another. You hear singing in the house, like hymns or chapel singing or whatever. But then again, he was a deacon, and they were a dominant Welsh family.
See, this is where I always go back to the idea of time slips. With if all time is happening as once, and it's bleeding over, you're getting a bleed over from those other times.
Yeah,
that as well.
It's a marvellous house. There's a lot of history to it. It was built out of love, so I was told by one of the neighbours. It was built on love, the whole house. And, I think they put up with us. And I don't think here. I think they would prefer a Welsh family living in here, really, if I was to be truthful. But they put up with us, and they love it when the kids are around. The energy from the kids, you can, so much happens when the children are around.
Yeah, because obviously for the innocence of the children, plus the kids are so psychic, aren't they?
Yeah.
Till they go to school, and then that's it, they've gone.
Until we have it programmed out of us.
I'll tell you a little story about the children, right? My son came here to look after the house one year when we went to Italy, and he brought his two babies, his two sons, right? One of them was only a baby and the other one was a toddler. And, of course, at 7 o'clock, they were put to bed. And he'd leave the bedroom door open upstairs, and he would sit in the sitting room downstairs, which is the nearest room to the staircase, and he'd have that door open so that he could hear them if they cried or got out of bed. And he was laying there one day in the watching something on the television, and he could hear voices. So he turned the television down and he heard these voices in the house. And first thing he thought was somebody had got into the house, because he could hear voices coming from upstairs. And then he heard one voice say to another, "Let's go and check on the boys." Well, that's his two sons, right? "Let's go and check on the boys." And he was up those stairs like a shot, and there was nobody up there. Wow. But he heard it as clear as day.
Anything.
Mm.
They do protect, if you notice that. It's like when you've got, I find that people that's of an older generation, like my nan.
Like me. Like me.
Have you noticed that when they have a lot of respect for the people that's passed on, and or they open that window, or that door's got to be open slightly to let spirit out, whereas a lot of the young uns don't know any of this. They haven't got this respect. I think you know where I'm coming from there, Irene.
Yeah.
Say that they're letting the soul out to let where they wish to go, and I still believe that today. I still believe
it's the same way when you see a funeral's going to go past your house, you close the curtains.
Exactly.
You used to close the curtains in respect. Okay.
It's just for me, I just feel as though because obviously people ask me all the time, and I actually say that your guardians, they're not your spirit guides, they're your guardians. They're your guardians, they're your family, they're there to protect you. And I always say, never ever close your bedroom doors over properly, always have them slightly open, because when in night terrors and things like that, family can go in and they can, help out. That's my belief, with people, and it seems to work with the majority that I do tell. Obviously, there is just some normal nightmares, dreams that we all have because we watch a silly program.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of old wives' tales and things like that I think do work. And like you say, it's like being polite to the dead.
Yes, you've got to have respect. You're going to respect the living as you are, then you've got to respect. It's like when someone says to me, "Well, how do you talk to the spirit?" Well, I talk to the spirit exactly how I speak to yourself.
Yeah.
There's a difference to me. If they swear at me, I swear back at them. I don't go, "Oh, please," but I also don't do any of this. "Oh, right, okay," torment spirit and then and blah blah blah, because I don't believe in that either. But I also don't believe in being too polite. Just be normal.
Yeah. You see, I used to do all that. I stopped doing that years and years ago. I'm not saying I can't talk to spirits, because I chat with them all the time in my private life, but I don't do anything in public life anymore. If one was to walk through here now, I'd acknowledge it and think, "Oh, God, there goes Herbert, or there goes Annie," And
I've got that question now.
Yeah. It's all part of life to me.
Why have you stopped?
Why have I stopped? Because I'll tell you why. The one big reason why I stopped. I think in the beginning, I think it was all a learning curve, things that I had to go through. I had to learn to be a spiritual medium. I had to learn to be a trance medium. this, that, and the other. But what actually done it for me, I look back on it now, they were all learning curves, moving on to the next stage of my progression. Okay? Yeah. But what actually done it with me, and it's in my book. What's the name of the book again, Mark?
Life Among the Spirits, available on Amazon.com.
Cheeky plug. But it's in my book. I was invited one day by a friend of mine to come up to her house for drinks. Okay, and it was a lovely summer's evening. She said, why don't you and Brian come up for drinks this evening? So I thought it was just going to be us two. I got there, and there was a load of people that she'd invited for dinner. We'd only been invited for after dinner drinks. She'd invited them for dinner. She put a drink in my hand. My husband was kind of whipped off by the blokes onto the other side of the room, and all these women crowded around me. And this friend of mine, she turned around and said, come on, Irene, in the other room, do your bit.
Yeah.
I was the after-dinner entertainment.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it?
And that was it. After that, no more. I'm not going to do any more.
I get that.
I never charged anyone anything. I've never, ever taken a penny for any work that I've ever done. Never. And I was just free entertainment.
See, that's a horrible thing. So I can't say I'm the same as you, Irene, because obviously, it's what I do for a living. So mine's kind of like a different, but I do like to give back on the spell work that I give out for free. Or, if I feel as though someone desperate needs a reading, I will give it. Obviously, if it's needed, I will do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing against anybody charging as long as they're not exorbitant prices, like £500 for a reading or £1,000 for a reading and things like that, because that is their living. And I did have a day job. I was working for an organisation at the time, so I was getting paid normal wages. So I didn't need to anyway.
I'm quite shocked with a lot of people on what they charge, because obviously I charge, 40 for the hour. And then.
Yeah, but that's about the average price, isn't it? That's it.
And then I also charge like £5 online to go to charity. So, I've got different prices from £5, £10, going up.
Yeah, but that is nothing. That's nothing. I remember going and seeing a medium with my mother after my father died. She wanted to go and see this medium. So I went there, and it was £20 then. Now, that was 1978. My father died.
Oof.
That's a lot of money.
Yes.
For 1978. So what you're charging is nothing.
It's one thing when somebody approaches
cigarettes.
Yeah, it's something when someone approaches you for a service. Okay, they can't always expect something for free, get something for nothing, because then they're taking. It's totally a different story when you want to give of yourself for somebody. That's a different story. But when somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, I want a reading, they're asking for a service. And in that type of environment, an exchange is natural, because why should they get something for free where they're otherwise they're just trying to take advantage of people. And again,
that's it. You see, I got take advantage of because I wasn't charging.
Yeah.
I do agree, because I've noticed that a lot, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of celebrities are charging, from £100 to £150 to $300 to.
Oh, I've known them charge a hell of a lot more than that.
And
I remember checking out. Somebody got in touch with me once to check out a website, and I think the £500 was the lowest on there.
Wow.
£500, and I thought, that's a bloody joke. I'm in the wrong business here.
I don't agree either with when people come to you for a reading. With myself, they say to me, when can I see you again? And I'll say when. Well, to be honest with you, I've got like a couple of rules that I have. First of all, 1, don't come and see me for at least 12 months. 2, make sure some of my predictions has come true. Otherwise, don't bother.
Well, this is it. There's people out there that go and see the same medium every month or every 2 weeks. That medium gets to know them inside out like friends.
Very much. Very much.
So really,
Mm-hmm. And then they're not really doing a reading. They know they're front loaded. They know too much about the person.
That's right.
And those people themselves who go to psychics on a regular basis, in a way, they're not taking responsibility for their own lives. They're going to see what's going to happen next. Well, you know what? Welcome to life. We don't know what's going to happen next. That's the whole purpose. We're here to learn. And I mean, it's a different story when you're in a situation where maybe you're feeling there's a life change, or maybe you're just looking for a little guidance at some point. I think that's perfectly fine. Maybe you just need a little help in figuring something out or getting some kind of an answer. But those people who go like once a month, I mean, come on, take some responsibility for your life.
Go and see a counsellor, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I do agree with that. Obviously, the work that I do, I take it very, very seriously. It's like putting somebody's life into your hands when you're doing a reading for them. So I do agree that, when people come, as they say, I do cold readings. I do start right from the word go. I just want yeses and nos, and that's how I work with most of my work. And then I never know what reading's going to be like until I start anyway, because it's not my choice, it's their family's choice, isn't it?
Well, you're right. Anybody that gets a reading where they say, I think this person is saying this, it's leading. The answers, everybody, if you get asked a question, yes, no, yes. Yeah. That's it. That's all you give out.
I've been to a couple of gallery readings from some psychics I used to know, and I learned very quickly how they start talking. Yes, I'm feeling somebody who's having a problem with their knee. It's like, yeah, well, that's half the group, myself included. They start throwing out these generalities until they narrow down to somebody. I'm getting a name starts with an M. It's like, okay, that's like about 100 different possibilities there. So, yeah, and I've caught them doing some cold stuff until the person gives them enough information, they start narrowing it down. Now, at the same time, I've seen these people come up with something that they couldn't possibly have known, which makes me think that some of these mediums or psychics, while they may have abilities, they're also lazy. And they're under pressure. When you do a gallery reading, you got like 40 people who've shown up to come and see you do a gallery reading and hope to get a reading. You're under pressure to perform. Yes. And it's something, and we all know it doesn't quite work that way. It doesn't work every single time that way. And sometimes you're getting nothing. So I think you're better off being honest, say, hey, sorry, I'm getting nothing here. Than trying to say something to them to just at least give them something, because they're sitting there in expectation.
I do agree, because I obviously do as you call it, a gallery reading. To be honest with you, I've just been from one, and I had one of my students with me, and he was lovely. He's still very much learning. He's very much on a sensitive side, and he'd made he hadn't made a mistake. It's how I don't work. And he said, he'd said a name and he shouted it and he threw it out. And I said, you don't throw it out. I said, you go direct to that person. I said, you look around this room and you go direct to the person. I said, and if you've got a link for them, you give them that link. And that's how I work. You see, I don't believe in this, does anybody know a John? That's wrong. I prefer to go to someone direct and say, right, Uncle whatever is here. Blah, 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 and go that way, because then it's personal to them, and then it's not throwing it out in a room where, as you said, Mark, you've got like 30 people going, I know, it's me. And I've been doing it far too long. I prefer me one-on-ones, obviously, because they're very private. But you also get the person that's very quiet and they're sitting there, and and they're going, oh yeah, and their head's going down and they don't really want the reading, and you're picking up stuff and you're thinking, right, okay, I just generally to say now, if you don't want the reading, come and see me in the break. I'm going to stop it now. So I don't generally go to other mediums and other psychic nights and things like that, because I get myself frustrated in what I see. And then I think to myself, is that what they're seeing with me? So that's why I changed mine, in the way that I work.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, I just cut off me,
Nope.
I waffle on and then I go, boom.
Nope.
No, I agree with you. That is the way to work. Literally the way to work, And
it is true. If you can't, if you have something for anybody, you tell them.
Tell them straight, it's that person anyway. The energy is pointing to that person.
Exactly.
So you could have 50 people sitting there in front of you, and you know which one it's for.
Well, and sometimes I think some of these psychics are trying too hard to interpret a message when it's really not their job to interpret it. It's their job to provide the information and let the person interpret what it means, because you can get information that sounds like totally off the wall and you have no idea what the hell does that mean, but it might have meaning for the person you're reading for. I don't claim to be psychic at all, but I will admit I've had things happen, and I've sometimes
you've had your moments.
I've had my moments. I've gotten my impressions, and that's exactly what they are. They're impressions. And what I've experienced is I'll get flashes of mental pictures, or just a knowing of like a name or something coming through, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But to try to sit there and figure it out, it's like, if it's not for me, if it's for somebody else, just give them the information and just let them figure it out.
It's true. I think one of mine recently was a wallpaper. Honestly, it was just so weird. And I described this wallpaper to her, and it was a personal laugh between her and her husband. And, he'd passed on, and, there's certain things. It wasn't like I love you and blah, blah, blah. He was going on about this wallpaper and how he hated it and all the rest of it. But she made complete sense of it. Mm-hmm. And as you said, that's what matters. As long as they can make sense of it, sometimes it's not your job to figure it out. It's just your job to just pass that information on. And I did laugh because she did tell, after I'd finished, she did explain, because she said, would you like an explanation? I said, yes, please, because I'm confused. And she told the story of it, and it made complete sense, which was lovely.
That's nice. Some of this information that comes through for people when you're sitting there doing a reading, how do you receive some of the information? And again, we're going with terms here, but I'm saying it in the broadest sense: clairaudient, clairsentient, are you receiving information in forms of pictures, words, sounds?
Everything. Everything. Sometimes I can see, but I choose not to. You mentioned something earlier to me, and I was going to grab you on it, and that was, we are lazy. A lot of psychic mediums are lazy, and I'm one of them. Because I can talk with spirit and see them right in front of me. So I won't tell the person. So now what I do is say, look, don't even just stand behind me or do something, so I can describe, and I make spirit describe themselves, and then I and then I pass it on over that way. So then it doesn't make me lazy, and then I can get on with it, and then they go, yeah. So I do that. I see, I get impressions, I hear things, I get, as you've just said before, you get a sensory, you get a picture. Sometimes I get a heart in my hand. And it's a heart attack, and, or someone will just drop on their feet and then get back up, and then I've got to figure it out. So there's lots of different things that happen within a reading, and, from symbolism to you literally seeing it. You've just got to try and figure it all out, or just say what you see, or say what you're getting, basically.
Now, you also mentioned you used tarot cards for doing a lot of your readings. Do you use the traditional Rider-Waite deck, or do you use different types of decks?
No. Basically, I haven't used tarot now for, since I've been 19, 20 years of age.
Okay, I misunderstood.
No, it's okay. I have got tarot cards. I do take them with me because some people won't accept just a one-on-one psychic reading. Or mediumship reading. Some people have to have those cards. So I always have them with me just to be on the safe side, because if that's what the other person wishes and wants to feel as though I'm doing, then I will do that for them. I use the old path. Don't I? I'm a witch. But the Rider-Waite for me was a little bit too dark. So I didn't really enjoy reading with them. And when I taught, or when I was teaching a lot of people with tarot, I found that the old path was the perfect pack for me. There's that many different packs out there, from the Vampire Pack to the Mother of Pearl Pack, to you name it. There's that many out there. I do believe that when people say you should have your tarot bought for you, I don't believe that. I feel as though you need to figure it out yourself. You've got to be comfortable with what you're reading.
Well, and I think sometimes it's the energy of the images on the deck that I have several tarot decks, and I haven't used them in a while, but the ones that attract me the most are the ones with the imagery that really calls out to me. I mean, there's one, I got it just because it was kind of a hoot and it stuck out to me, but the steampunk tarot, of all things, having that old Victorian style imagery, but it's the steampunk version, and going through the classic tarot decks. I have a Native American deck. I've had a couple of others that, for me, it's the artwork. If I can resonate with the artwork, then it helps me better understand the messages coming through, rather than the traditional Rider-Waite. I can't work with that at all.
See, we're both on the same level. I just want to kind of just say something. I've actually got a pack of cards called the Kama Sutra as well.
Oh yes, I'm familiar with that. Don't have it myself.
Yes, I've got them, and I've got the old little witchy cards as well, where they've got the little interpretations on them. Mm-hmm. So I've got them as well. So I do go quite a bit back, but I do agree with you. It comes down to your personal preference, because I've got druid cards as well, but I always draw back to the old path for myself, even though it's very much on a naked side of things with mine. The major arcana, basically not. They tell a story, whereas the minor arcana, they're kind of like just all, sitting on horses and things like that, naked and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, but I do feel as though they've got the right hair colour, they've got the right eye colour, things like that. So again, it comes my laziness, and then I can see that, and then I can interpret it a lot better.
I'm not going to ask you to describe the Kama Sutra pack. I've seen that book. I've seen the book.
Oh, I want you to describe the lover's card for me. I can just imagine that one. But this is radio, folks, so no pictures.
Husband bought them me as a laugh, and believe you me, I did laugh at him. I thought, oh my God, trust you to pick them and find them. It's one of those.
Oh dear. I don't know anything about tarot cards because I don't read them. I have got a pack somewhere that someone bought for me once.
Well, that's because you operate on a completely different level. You don't need tarot cards.
No, you don't.
No.
They're just a tool that you use. Obviously, some people...
I got runestones.
Oh, I can't be doing with them. I can't be doing with them. They're too boring for me.
I don't even know where they are. That shows you, doesn't it?
They take too long. I'm like,
no, they're kicking about.
But you do have your demon ring.
Yes, I got that. I've got him.
Yes. Who's naughty and wants to come out of the closet
thinking,
once in a while.
What's he mean about she's got a demon ring?
Yeah.
No, it's not rude. Not rude. It's just...
We've done a past show on it, and you can also see it on our Facebook page. We have the Demon Ring of Amalfitana.
Yeah, he comes from the south of Italy, and I sent had him checked out by the British Museum. Yeah, by the British Museum, and they cannot date him. They said that they can only tell me that it's a few hundred years old, but they can't date back. He's solid silver, made from one complete nugget. He's hand carved, and he's got
rubies for eyes.
Yeah. Either rubies,
and it's got the horns. We've had many discussions about this ring, whether or not it's a representation of Pan, because
which I hope it is,
in Italy, and or a satyr. But again, when you look at it, it has that real pointed chin, whiskers, the curl. It has the horns carved into the side. And, first thing when people see it, especially in Western society, they think it's a demon.
Oh, wow.
But we honestly don't know.
He's very, very heavy to wear on your finger, and when you first put him on, he's always too big because he's obviously made for a man, but within seconds he tightens up to fit your finger. And I know he pulsates, vibrates.
Well, say no more then. You don't need to say Pan anything else, do you?
Well, this is it. He could have been made in the image of Pan. It depends on who wore it, what they used it for, what their intent was, whether somebody said that it had a demon trapped inside it. There's a lot of things going on with it, aren't there, Mark?
Well, just don't go out on May Day with it on then.
I'm quite attached to him, actually. I've had him for over 50 years.
Wow.
And he lives in the safe now. He did live for the first 40 years. He lived up in the attic in a box. But now he lives in the safe. And back in early 1970s, I had him on my finger when I went to work one day. Somebody saw him and offered me £500 there and then for it.
Oh, no, you just don't want
So if they want to give me £500 back in the 70s, what's that equivalent to today?
At least several hundred or a couple grand. But tell Wendy what happened when you took it to that jeweler that time.
Oh, jeweler.
To get it appraised.
This jeweler was back in the 70s, and I wanted to know more about it. So I found this old jeweler. It was one of these jewelers that always kept their doors locked. You had to knock on the door to come in, before he'd let you in. And he was an old Hungarian or something, I think he was Hungarian, come over during the war or just after the war.
Mm.
And okay. That's all right. I've been told to hurry up by my producer. Okay. So I took him to see him, and he opened the door, and I had the ring in my palm of my hand, and he took one look at it and told me to go away, clear off. And he was really rude. And I argued with him. I said, I just want you to look at it. And I pushed my way into the shop sort of thing. I said, I just want you to look at it and tell me what you can tell me about it. And he was, no, get out of my shop, get that out of my shop, it's evil, da, 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 da. He was going absolutely ballistic. Anyway, after calming him down with a few threats, he turned around and he said to me, it's solid silver, it's hand-carved, it's hundreds and hundreds of years old. He said, it's made from in one nugget, one piece, of silver. He said, the eyes are, I can't remember whether he said garnet or rubies, Mark. That's it. I just can't remember. I think it was garnets.
Maybe it's garnets.
Yeah. And he said, now get it out of my shop and don't come back in here again. Wow. He said, it's evil. He said, get it out of my shop. And he was screaming at me. Anyway, practically pushed us out the door, and he locked the door behind us straight away. Mm.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot of history behind it then. I mean, obviously he knew what it was about.
Well, let me tell you how I found it, right? It was an ex-boyfriend, apparently, that brought it over. It belonged to an old hermit.
Irene, we have 3 minutes left, so make it quick.
All right. It belonged to an old hermit that lived in the village up in the south of Italy, okay? And he brought it over. He found it hanging on an iron nail after the old boy had died. And he brought it to England, and he had so much bad luck, he buried it next in the churchyard, not far from the wall, about 6 foot or 8 foot away from the wall of the church. And it was there for a year in all the winter and the snow and all the weather and everything. And then he told me about it, and I made him go and dig it up. We went and dug it up together. The whole churchyard had been mown. All the grass had been cut short, except for one tuft of grass, which was well rooted in. And I pulled on that grass myself, and he said that's where it was. We dug it up, and it came out the ground. It wasn't wrapped in anything. It came out the ground as clean and shiny as what it is now.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Funny.
Well, we have come to the end of the show. Time has really flown by tonight. Wendy, if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way to do it really is to just go onto Facebook and look up Lady Snake. I know there's 3 different pages, but they're all mine. So there's different ones on there. Obviously, please don't look up my real name because that's my personal account. But there's plenty of stuff on there. If you just put up Lady Snake, and they can grab hold of me that way and message me.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
And yourselves, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Wendy.
And I want to thank everybody else for tuning in for another edition here of Paranormal UK Radio here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And Irene, where can people find us?
Everywhere, folks, everywhere.
Everywhere. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, and another shout out to also our listeners on XLR Radio as well, and Dark Matter Digital Network.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great evening. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.